Hello! How's everyone doing? We're about to go live in just a few minutes, so I'm going to vamp for a little time, if that's okay, while everybody tunes in. Hello, my name is True Thomas, the Storyteller. This is show number 2! And I hope some of you folks are coming back, and for those of you who are just joining us, it's the usual mischief, mayhem, and magic that you've come to expect. We're doing this storytelling in honor of the Southern California Scandinavian Festival, which, due to the virus outside, has been canceled. Much worse than a dragon, I'm afraid, because you could do something about a dragon. The virus, on the other hand, just kind of sneaks around. In any case, we would normally have a beautiful festival going right now, and if you've never been to the campus at Cal Luthern, it is gorgeous. It is green. It is lush. They're beautiful. There's a beautiful creek running through it. They have maypoles up. There's all sorts of beautiful booths selling all the Scandinavian stuff you could possibly imagine. There are people wandering around playing the middle harp and then of course my lady and her friend Tanya are over there doing textile demonstrations, and usually behind me I have the Ravens of Odin, wonderful reenactment group. They have more props than anybody should be allowed to have, and the Ravens of Odin are also very, very knowledgeable, and so they make a beautiful backdrop behind me. And also, if I'm lucky enough, I have my son Talason, RJ, there, and he's an up-and-coming wonderful storyteller too. I've heard some very good things from people about how he did when he came out and did ScanFest. So sadly the festival isn't happening. That doesn't stop us from going virtual and having a great festival online. So this is interactive. This live streaming is interactive, and so what we would like you to do is go over there and hit that emoticon. You know, hit that emoticon and go beep, 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 and just say heart, 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 or love, 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 love. Don't put an angry face, because we will come get you. So, I'm sorry, what was the message? Okay. So, and also, we absolutely want you to type along and make comments and everything, because I'm missing that. Normally, I'm used to performing for an interactive audience where people are throwing, tomatoes and popcorn, or in this case, spears and axes. And I'm used to that. And so for me to be talking to you on camera and everything is a whole new experience for me. So I hope I do a good job. Also, if you have questions about the Vikings and that sort of thing, we are very, very happy to do what we can to be interactive. I have the beautiful cat over here manning the cybers. Everybody say, hi, cat.
Hi, cat.
And then, in our sound effects department, we have RJ. No sound effects, really. and so...
Boom, pow!
Zoom, pow, bash. Thank you, sir. So we're going to do our best, what humble origins we have, to be entertaining. How are we doing on time?
Keep going.
All right. So we'll be starting in just a few seconds. This, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, there aren't a whole lot of public performances happening right now. And so for me as a storyteller, as an instructor, not a lot of gigs happening for me right now. So if you feel inspired to drop a tip in the old Viking ship, dragon ship, I will not object. And so we're going to post that information if you want to throw a few coins my way. So, are you having fun? Are you ready to have some? By the way, I'm going to tell my very, very favorite Viking myth tonight. And it is called the Lay of Thrym. And it was, it comes from way back, 1200s at least. And I hope you like it. Are we ready?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, first thing I'm going to say is, welcome! Welcome! Tusen takk! Thank you for joining us. I know all my Norwegian friends are probably asleep right now, but I just want you to imagine you're in that long hall. You're coming in. You're okay, Oli. I need you to put the axes over there. Good. Lars, the spear does not go. Leave it wherever you want. And then Inga, if you could just park the dragon ship, very good. Hege, all your shield maidens go over there. Thank you very much. And of course, Stina, of course, and you can put him back too. If not, okay, fine. So I want you all to pull up next to the fire, because remember, in our time period, back in the time of the Vikings, you know, roughly the 700s to about 1066, that 300-year period, you know, when there was plague outside, you were lucky if you had a storyteller. You would call him next to the fire if he wasn't, and he would entertain and tell stories. And you were like, ha ha, we've got a storyteller, ha ha. So, congratulations, you've got me. Sorry. I think I'll start off with my storytelling call. Storytelling! Storytelling time! Storytelling time! Come and listen to my stories, come and listen to my rhymes. I will tell of the ancient days of our forefathers' time. Storytelling time. Storytelling time. Lords and ladies, jelly beans and crocodiles, come on in and have a seat for a while. Just imagine you're sitting under the shade. Your work is done. Come now and play. My name is True Thomas the Storyteller, and I'd like to share a couple of things with you. Now, I know there's still some people tuning in. First of all, I hope you all have your favorite beverage, a hornful of mead or ale or milk. It does a body good. And hang on a second. The key to success in life, lubrication. Hang on just a second. Now, oh, I'm sorry. And I forgot the most important part. Skull! By the way, skull, I'll touch on that in just a second. Skull. Where were we? So before we start into the story, I thought I would do one of the pieces that is requested often, but I was only going to do half of it. So this is half of the top 10 Viking myths. And these are not myths, but myths about Vikings. So feel free to comment and have some fun with this. Okay. The very first Viking myth, number 10. You are not a Viking or a Viking, you go a Viking. It's an action. It's a verb. You don't say, I go a shopping, right? I am a shopping. Okay. So it means to go on a journey. Shopping, pillaging, reaving, sightseeing, trading, slaving, you know, the usual. It might derive from vig, or which means to fight, or vic, which means creek. And believe me, if you were in England and all of a sudden you saw a dragon ship going up the creek behind you, you know what the name of that creek was. And the paddle you didn't have. And that was one of the amazing things about the Viking ships, is they could take those dragon boats and park them in a small river and go right up them. So anyway, we now use the term Viking, but it was actually something you did. Number 9, the Vikings were not savages. Yes, they could be savages, but they were not primitive and they were not uncivilized. They were master metalworkers. They were brilliant ship builders. Their ships for their time period was the F-35 of their time period. They were light and powerful and traveled all over the world. Remember, the Vikings went everywhere, all the way down to Africa, all the way into Russia, which is, by the way, where Russia gets its name, the Rus, the Red, and then all the way into Greenland and North America. They were pretty much the first Europeans to be in America that we know of. And so they got around, and their weavers, think of those beautiful card weaving, the Viking card weaving. The idea of that, with their very, very clever patterns and everything, influenced what came to be punch cards, which came to influence computer programming. Right. They were brilliant for what they had. It was amazing. So, not primitive, not uncivilized, just different. Number 8, I ask you, does Santa Claus look like a Greek saint from the 4th century who lived in Turkey, or does he look like somebody who, you know, might fly around on an 8-legged steed, 8 tiny reindeer, right? Who flies through the sky, who decides who is good and bad, and has no problem working with elves. He's been working with elves forever. Maybe Christmas and Santa Claus owes a bit more to Odin, the Allfather, than he does to the stories of St. Nicholas. And I would just like to point out that He has no problem with evergreens and people hanging around objects off that tree, if you get my meaning. So in any case, when you kiss under the mistletoe, yeah, that's a good Nordic tradition. And I just want to remind you, be good for Yule. You know, go out there and fight and slay your enemies, and maybe you'll get a bright shiny axe for Yule. All right, moving right along. Number 7. Today is Saturday, and Saturday is the only day in our calendar named after a Roman god. The rest, they all belong to the Norse. Are you ready? Here we go. And by the way, they called Saturday, and I'm going to mangle this, Lagadagar, which meant washing day. Those crazy barbarians, they were really big on washing and cleaning. As a matter of fact, if we go into the archaeological finds and everything, we find tons of combs and tweezers and soap and all sorts of stuff. They were very, very big on cleaning. Guess what? Still that way in Scandinavian countries today. But for instance, Sunday comes from Suna, the Sol goddess. Notice that it's a goddess named affiliated with the sun. And then Mana, Monday, the moon day, after a guy. And then we move on. We come to Tuesday, Tears Day. That's right. I don't know if I can do this. Here you go. He who lost his hand binding Fenrir, the world wolf, the one that's going to eat us all at Ragnarok, he sacrificed his hand as a promise. And so they, from that day forward, called him the oath binder. So if you want to make a promise, make it on Tuesday. Might stick a little better. All right, moving right along, we have Wednesday. Woden, Mr. Wednesday, named after the Allfather, Grimnir, the gallows god. Moving right along, we have Thursday. Gee, I can't imagine who Thursday is named after. Of course, Thursday. So if you're going to go out and hammer somebody or get hammered, Thursday is the day to work with. And then, of course, we have Friday, which is either named after Freya or Frigg, depending on who you talk to, but she was either of them were two of the most powerful female goddesses that there are. If it is Frigg, she's the chieftain of the goddesses, and not somebody you want to mess with. And remember, in the case of Freya, she has her own hall full of 10,000 warriors called Folkvanger or Sesrumner. And so, yeah, you don't mess, is pulled around on a giant cart pulled by giant cats, has a necklace that shoots beams of death. You know, that lady. Also a love goddess. All right, and then finally, number 6 of our lineup is skull or skull. It doesn't mean skull, it means bowl. That's what they're saying is bowl. Right? Not quite as much fun. As far as we know, they didn't drink out of the skulls of their enemies. Although, there's a very interesting story about a certain smith, Wayland Smith. And there was a king and queen that grabbed him, and because he was the most famous artificer of his time, and they dragged him and they threw him into a jail, but gave him all the tools. First of all, just a point of order here. If you know somebody who's an engineer or a gadgeteer of some sort, and you give them tools and put them in a jail, that's not a very brilliant idea just to begin with. But anyway, he was in there, and they wanted him to make something magical for them before they would let him go. Well, he did. It turns out they had 2 children. And I guess the legend goes that he called the children closer and closer to the jail. And then about a week later, he said, "My lord and my lady, oh, your majesties, I have something to present to you." And they said, "What did you make for us?" And he said, "These beautiful goblets." And they looked at him. They were beautiful porcelain goblets. And they said, "Oh, these are gorgeous and beautiful. We have to show them to the kids." He said, "Am I let go?" "Oh, yeah, you can go now." Well, let's just say that they never needed to worry about the kids doing the dishes again. They were the dishes. Viking humor. What can I say? All right, so that was the first half of 10 myths about Vikings, and now we're going to get started on our story. Are you ready for a story? Everybody say yay!
Yay!
I hope you're having fun. And remember, you can hit the icon, and you can also send notes, and we'll be glad to interact if we can. Here we go with our story. Thor was waking up. He was waking up, and he reached out for that one thing that he loved most in the universe. Was it his beautiful golden-haired wife, Sif? No. Was it his 2 children, Magni and Modi? No. It was his hammer. He reached for Mjolnir, but it wasn't there. Well, he sometimes left it in other places, and so he reached under the bed and looked around under there, nothing but some ferocious dust bunnies. But there was nothing under there. Well, he got up and went into the bathroom and looked for the hammer there, which, by the way, if Thor was ever really being mean to you, he would just, put the hammer on top of a toilet and then nobody could move it. And, oh, that's so funny, Thor. But anyhow, it wasn't in there. Sometimes, he would leave it in the guacamole dip, in the great mead hall, and everybody thought that was so funny, especially the cleaning staff, but he kind of looked through there and it wasn't there. Well, it's not like the hammer went places, because once he set it down, there it stayed. And so he had himself his first horn of mead and started wandering around the place, and he could not find his hammer. And sure enough, about an hour later, a young person came running up and said, Lord Thor, almighty powerful thunderer, we could use your help up on the wall. Now, don't read into this, but they had a great big wall surrounding Asgard that they used to keep back the smaller giants, the 20-footers and down, the trolls with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads. And the gods would man that wall and deal with the various creatures attacking. But for some reason, it was going crazy. There were all these creatures attacking Asgard. And so Uller was up there with his bow. That only counts as one. And then, Frey was there with his sun sword. Who's your daddy? And so they were having a rough time keeping all the creatures back. Giants of all sizes, shapes, and everything were coming. And the young man told Thor this and said, if you could kind of come up there and bring your hammer and kind of bring the heat down a little bit, a little that whole thunder and lightning thing. And Thor said, I can't find it. I'm sorry? I can't find my hammer. What? Did you check your bed? Yes, I checked my bed. Did you check under your bed? I checked under my bed. Did you check the bathroom? Because, you sometimes do that. I checked the bathroom. What about the mead hall? I checked the mead hall. Ooh, this is bad. I better let the people back at the wall know. Yeah, I suppose. Go ahead. And with that, the young man flew off. And away he went. And they kept looking for the hammer. Sif and his children, everybody was looking for the hammer. Nobody could find the hammer. Well, everybody who wasn't fighting on the wall, they all gathered to the moot hall and they all started talking. And this is the part where you all get to help. I'm going to point to you and you're going to say, Walla, Walla, Walla. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Walla, walla, walla.
All right, now say rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
Rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
Congratulations, you're all now members of the Screen Extras Guild. Don't forget to pay. And so all the people were saying Walla, Walla, Walla.
Walla, walla, walla.
And rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
Rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
And they were having a real problem because without that hammer, Asgard was likely to fall. Thor was there and everybody was talking, and finally somebody said, where's Loki? Because if you look on the whole list of Viking problems and how to figure out who did what, if you check the flow chart, it's usually the number one is, did Loki do it? Well, they didn't know where Loki was, but Thor usually could find him and did find him and grabbed him and dragged him back to the moot hall and said, what have you done with my hammer? And Loki said, why do you always accuse me of these things? Excuse me? Not this guy. Loki, yes. Did you take my hammer? For once, this time, it's not me. Yep, it's not me. I've been trying to steal that hammer and move it. Nobody can move that stupid hammer, Thor. Well, my hammer is missing. What do you want me to do about it? And Bragi looked up and said, Loki, you're on a first-name basis with all the scum and villainy in the universe. If you could find it in your heart of hearts to just wander around and make a few inquiries, we'd really appreciate it. Oh, right. So, Loki, you stole the hair off my wife. Oh, we hate you for that. Oh, Loki, your children, the Jorgenmonder, the one that circles the world, Fenrir, the one who's going to eat us all at the end of time. Hell, down in Niflheim, with a face, one half beautiful, the other half all disgusting and full of maggots and everything. Oh, we hate you, Loki, we hate you. But now it's, oh, Loki, could you make a few inquiries? Yeah, I can do that. So, I'm going to need Freya's feathered cloak. Now, in case you didn't know this, not only did she have that amazing necklace, Brisingamen, but she also had a falcon feathered cloak, which allowed her to turn into a falcon or fly anywhere in the 9 realms that she wanted to. And Loki desired that cloak badly. And he said, I'm going to have to borrow that cloak if you want this done quick. And she went, I suppose for the good of us all, one feather damaged. And you'll answer to me, yes, yes. And he put it on. I'll make this look good. Ciao, babies. And he turned into a falcon and flew. He flew through Gimli, the high heavens. He flew through Niflheim. Hey, baby. He flew through Muspelheim, the land of fire, where Surtur waited. He flew through all the realms. Svartalfheim. Hey. He flew and he flew through Midgard. That's where we are. Everybody say hi. Hi, Loki. He flew as a falcon till finally he came to Jotunheim. And believe it or not, Loki had no problem with the cold, and there's a reason for that. He flew through Jotunheim, and as he was flying around, what did he see but the biggest ice giant he had seen in a long time, sitting on the side of a glacier, playing with his cows. He flew closer, and there was the ice giant playing with his cows. Burndy burr, da mushki moo, ding, ding, ding. I think this one's frozen. Loki landed next to him. La! Hey, big guy. Hello, Loki. Laufey-san. Are you looking for something? That never gets old. Yeah, big guy. Why are you sitting out on the side of a glacier just playing with your frozen bovines there? Oh, I don't know. Burndy bird, mushki moo. If you squeeze them, you get Haagen-Dazs. He set them down. He said, are you looking for something? Yes, I got it the first time. If I was looking for something, what would you have that would interest me? Oh, I don't know. If I had a hammer, do-do-do, mushki moo, moo, moo. If you had a hammer, what a coinkydink. I just happened to be looking for, I don't know, an artifact of rare power? Well, yes, and I think I know where that hammer is, and I can get it back to you, but I want something in return. And Loki smiled, because this is something he knew something about, dealing with things. And he said, and what would you want, big guy? And the great giant, who looked down, he said, well, my name is Thrym, and what I want to do is marry the beautiful Freya. He looked up and said, why is it that you guys all have a thing for Freya? She's gorgeous and beautiful, don't get me wrong, but she is pulled around on an iron chariot pulled by giant gray cats, has a necklace that shoots death, has a hall of 10,000 angry warriors. Didn't you get the memo? Oh, what can I say? I'm a romantic. Right. You want to marry Freya. All right. And if I get you Freya, you're going to give us the hammer back. Yeah, sure, you betcha. All right, then. I'll see you in just a little bit. And he turned back into a falcon. And he flew all the way back into the moot hall in Asgard. And turned back into Loki, and he said, hey, guys. And all the people were saying, walla, walla, walla.
Walla, 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 walla.
Rhubarb, rhubarb, rhubarb.
Rhubarb.
Thus getting more residuals with the Screen Extras Guild. And they said, Loki! Everybody say Loki.
Loki! Hi.
Said, "Hi, guys." And they said, "Did you find the hammer?" And he said, "I think I know who has it." And they said, "Great, let's go get it." And he said, "Well, a little problem there." They said, "What?" He said, "Well, it's the biggest ice giant that I've ever seen. I mean, the guy is huge. He's almost as big as Utgard Loki. He's huge. And his name is Thrym. And I'm pretty certain he's got a lot of buddies and pals, and I believe he has your hammer." They said, "Well, that's great. We'll just send Thor to go deal..." Oh, wait, right. That is a problem. "Well, that's okay because he's willing to make a deal." And they all said, "What?" Everybody say, "What?"
What?
He said, "Nothing big. He just wants to marry the beautiful Freya." At which point Freya looked and said, "Nuh-uh. Not gonna happen. And with that, she stood up and she said, "Listen, I'm sorry. Every time one of these things happens, all the giants, for some weird reason, have a thing for me. I'm not doing it. If you need that hammer back, you marry a giant. I'm not doing it." And with that, she turned and she walked away, and she was as beautiful walking away as she had been coming into the room. And all the gods went, "Oh no!" Can I have an "oh no"?
Oh no!
And they were all grumbling, blah, 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 blah. At which point, Loki started to laugh. At which time the god said, "Hey, Loki, you're kind of creeping us out. What's so funny?" And Loki said, "You know, it just occurs to me, that giant has probably never seen Freya. He has no idea what she looks like. We could put Thor in a wedding dress, and he wouldn't know the difference." And all the gods looked at each other and went, "Can I have some laughter, please?" At which point, Thor stood up and said, "No, not going to happen. No, no, no." Boom, 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 boom. And the big man stormed out of the hall. Loki smiled. He said, "Right. Kvasir, god of mead, go see what you can do. Bragi, go whisper those sweet words in his ears." And so Bragi and Kvasir, they went out there and had a little chat with Thor. About a half hour later, Thor comes in and he is lit. "Woo! Let's do this! Woo-hoo-hoo!" At which point he stood up, and it just so happens there was a Laurel in costuming, the goddess of costuming there, and she got out her magic needle and her magic scissors. Never use them to cut paper, ever. And she got out her magic needle and her magic scissors and went, "Ta-da!" And there was a gorgeous Viking wedding dress, apron, jewelry, and everything. And Loki looked and he said, "That's gorgeous, but what about his hands?" She said, "Please, darling." And with that, she put beautiful gloves to cover his big hairy knuckles. He said, "Right, what about the whole giant beard and everything?" She said, "This is not my first rodeo." And with that, she took that giant beard and stuffed it in, and Thor the bride had huge tracts of land. And with that, he said, "What about his big bushy eyebrows and his burning red eyes?" She said, "Wedding veil." And with that, they put a wedding veil on him, a little crown of flowers, all plated and everything. And all the people in the room went, "Aww." At which point Loki held up a mirror and said, "What do you think, big guy?" Thor looked at it and went, "I feel pretty. I feel pretty. I feel pretty as pretty can be." And with that, he said, "Good enough for me. Don't worry, I already have a handmaid's outfit. Don't judge. I am now Loki the handmaid." And with that, he said, "Hang on, big guy, here we go." He reached over and he touched the bride on the top of her big shaggy head and went, whoop. She turned into an acorn. He turned into a falcon. And he flew back to Jotunheim, the land of fire, the land of frost and cold and stone. They flew and they flew and they flew until finally he saw the great hall, and he flew into it. And there were all the giants parting. Stone giants on one side, frost giants on the other, storm giants over there. And they were all singing and hollering and whooping. Can I have some singing and hollering and whooping, please? They were having a great time. There were trolls of every size, shape, and dimension. Little ones, big ones, ones with 6 heads. La, 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 la. Great for a choir. At which point, they were all partying and everything, and the falcon flew in, and the handmaid Loki turned and looked at the room and said, "Hello, giants and various immensities. I have brought the beautiful bride, the gorgeous Freya." Everybody have a toast. Everybody say skull.
Skull.
And they did. They all said skull. And at which point, the handmaid Loki went, dropped the acorn, and boom! There was the bride Thor in the beautiful veil and everything, but she was immense, very, very wide. At which point the giants all looked and went, "Aw!" Can everybody give me an aw? Aw! And Thrym the giant looked and he said, "She's bigger than I expected." "Oh yes," said Loki. Look at those big childbirthing hips. She will give you many, many big, strong children." And Thrym went, "Okay, we get married Norwegian style here." With that, he spat in his hand and held out his hand. And Loki went, "Please." The handmaiden slapped his hand away. "This is an Asgardian goddess. She needs to have a little bit more ceremony, a little bit more party, a little bit more je ne sais quoi." The giant said, "I'm sorry, I do not." "Feasting, party. Oh, feasting we can do. Yeah, sure, you betcha." And he motioned with his hands, and out came an immense amount of food. Everything you could possibly imagine. There was lefse, the good stuff. There was lingonberries. There was also lutefisk. There was sides of beef and salmon and everything. And the blushing bride made her way over to the table, and she started to eat. She was taking whole sides of beef and sticking them under the wedding veil and going, and spitting out bones and chasing the dragons away under the table. She was taking whole hogsheads of mead and drinking them. And Thrym looked down and he said, my blushing bride has quite an appetite." At which point Loki smiled and he said, "Well, you do know, once she found out she was going to marry the great and powerful Thrym, she's been starving herself to fit into that wedding dress." And the giant went, "Aw," and all the other giants went, "Aw." Everybody give me an aw.
Aww.
Thank you very much. And Loki could tell that this line of questioning was going to end up going south in a hurry. But before he could even react, Thrym leaned over and thought because he was in his cups too, he decided he was going to sneak a kiss from his blushing bride. So he went over there and tried to sneak a kiss, and the blushing bride looked back and, well, Thrym saw underneath the wedding veil 2 eyes that burned like red-hot embers, because we all know how Thor feels about giants. And he went, "Handmaid, why do my blushing bride's eyes burn like 2 red-hot embers?" "Oh," said the handmaid Loki, "she's been crying herself to sleep every night thinking about how wonderful it will be to be married to such a massive and powerful giant as you." And all the giants went, "Aww."
Aww.
Thank you. And handmaid Loki said, "Right, we got to get this on the road." He said, "All right, big fella, if I could have you over here." Goom, 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 goom. "Oh, good." And then if I could get the blushing bride over here. If I could get the blushing bride. "You, over here." Thor in the wedding dress came over and stood next to the giant. And he said, "Right, so let's go ahead and have the ceremony. Now, to make certain that we have lots and lots of issue, we need something magical. We need a powerful magical artifact to bless this." And the big giant looked down and said, "You mean like a hammer?" Loki smiled and said, "Absolutely." With that, the giant clapped his hands, and into the hall, 30 storm giants on one side, 30 frost giants on the other side. The logging chains that did not hold Fenrir, they started dragging. Oreos and milk. Oreos and milk. Across the stone floor, digging a 3-foot trench, sparks and smoke flying. They dragged the hammer Mjolnir, all of those giants, the chains becoming red hot until finally it was right before the blushing bride. "Well done, sir," said Loki, in handmaid's outfit. "All right. Well, big fella, if I could just have you reach down here, just take that big pinky here and just touch the hammer. And if I could have the blushing bride, that's you, and if I could have the blushing bride just reach down and put your hand on the handle. Very good. Just keep that right there. I'm going to step outside for just a second and think of the right words for this occasion." And with that, the handmaid Loki turned around with a swirl, looked at the beautiful wedding couple, and looked at the bride and said, "You do what you do best." And with that, headed out the door. All the giants were looking at this as the beautiful blushing bride reached down and picked up the hammer as light as a feather. And then the hammer started to spin. Lightning started to follow the hammer. Around the hall, there was a roar of thunder. Everybody help me with the thunder and lightning. There was a crash of lightning, and all of a sudden, ping! Out of the wedding dress came a big red beard full of electricity. And Thor reached back and pulled the wedding veil back and laughed maniacally. And that hammer, it started to fly. Now, to simulate this as would be proper, I'm going to point to you and you're going to make the sound of exploding giants. All right, on the count of 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Boom!
And that must have been a troll. Anyway, there was boom, smash, crash, flash, bash. Meanwhile, outside doing her nails, the handmaid Loki was going as bits of giant and ichor and tables and trays were flying out. Flashes of thunder and lightning. After a few minutes, Thor came out and his wedding dress was all covered with gore and it was on fire and Thor's hair was standing on end and he was swinging the hammer going, "Best wedding ever!" "I want to go to another wedding, Loki." And Loki smiled and he said, "I'm sorry, big fella. I know you're having a good time, but I don't have any other weddings to bring you to." "Oh, well, I go, there's still some meat." He said, wait. "But I do have some place to bring you where there are lots of giants." "Giants? Do I get to kill more giants?" "Yes, you do." "All right, hang on." And with that, he turned back into Loki and he put the falcon cloak on and turned back into a falcon. And this time, he did not turn Thor into an acorn. Instead, that little birdie got the back of Thor's neck and started to lift. Hardest working falcon in mythology, I just got to say. He started to fly and he flew all the way from Jotunheim back to Asgard. And what did the gods who were on the wall fighting and exhausted turn up to see? But Thor flying toward the wall in a wedding dress, flaming. They heard the music. Vroom, vroom, vroom. At which point Thor hit the wall and turned, and there were thousands of giants of all different sizes, shapes, stone giants, fire giants, frost giants, cloud giants, you name it, all sorts of giants attacking the wall. At which point Thor, he played his favorite game in the universe, Whack-A-Giant. And to simulate that, I'm going to point to you and you're going to make the sound of exploding giants. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Boom!
And.
That!
Okay. And.
Spur!
And. And.
Spur!
And. And. And.
Boom!
And. Yes. Thank you to my special effects department. Boom, smash, crash, and all the giants and trolls, the ones that were left, did what they always do in this situation. They turned and they said those immortal words, "Run away! Run away! Run away!" And they all ran back to their various myths, legends, and folktales. Thor was standing on the wall with what was left of his smoking, ragged wedding dress. And he called Mjolnir back, and it was glowing red hot, electricity crackling around it. And he pointed it to all the gods and warriors there, and he said, "No one is going to talk about this to anyone. Got it?" And all the people went, "Uh-huh." Now, I'm not saying that any of the gods and demigods who were on that wall were talking, but I have to tell you, I'm pretty certain some of the human servants were, because the story got down to earth where we are in Midgard, and eventually it traveled through oral tradition for hundreds of years until it was written in a piece of literature called the Prose Edda by Snorri Sturluson, and that, I believe, dates back to about the 12th century. And so you have just heard a traditional story called the Lay of Thrym, as written by him, as interpreted by me, just like your ancestors did in their mead halls hundreds and hundreds of years ago. The Lay of Thrym. I hope you enjoyed that story. And before we go, I have a couple of things I just want to give a couple of shout outs real quick if I could. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Tanya and the Ravens of Odin, who have always been there for us at the ScanFest. We love you guys, how wonderful you are. If you're interested in actual Norse mythology, if you want to teach share your kids with those wonderful myths and legends, two resources I absolutely recommend. Neil Gaiman, the master, his Norse mythology and his audio tapes are amazing and wonderful. And then probably the book almost pretty much responsible for me to becoming a storyteller is the Storyteller book of Norse myths. This and the Greek one are amazing. I fell in love with them as a kid and kind of kicked me on this gig. And then a couple other people I want to give a shout out. If you're interested in things Norse, and for instance, if you would like to learn how to speak the language of the Old Norse, check out Dr. Jackson Crawford. His website on YouTube, the Old Norse channel. He's a University of Colorado professor and probably one of the coolest people on the planet. I have a total storyteller crush on him. And then the Viking answer lady, Christy Ward Ganora. If you have questions, especially about costuming and the life and times of the Vikings, check out the Viking answer lady. Please come to the Scandinavian Festival next year. It is a beautiful location. The people are wonderful. And I hopefully will be telling stories there as well. So I hope you'll come and join us there. And if you get a chance, unfortunately it's been canceled this year, but you need to check out Norse Coast Fest, which is in Minot, North Dakota. I get to perform up there in the Northern Lights exhibit with all my crazy Norwegian friends and Swedish friends and all the Viking reenactors up there too, who are amazing and just a wealth of knowledge. And I get to be there with my mad Sami and Kven friends. Hello Stina, Hege, Trina, all of you, I miss you so much. And then also I want to give a big shout out to Solvang Trolley up there in Solvang, my friends Clau and Seth. They have an amazing trolley. It is wonderful to follow those big, beautiful Belgians and ride around Solvang and get all the literature or hear all the history and everything. And then, after you get done, go to the Solvang Trolley ice cream shop, which they have some amazing ice cream and other treats. So you need to check that out, and thank you for sponsoring me. I would also like to give a shout out to the Society of Creative Anachronisms. They are the crazy people you see hitting each other with sticks in full armor. That is not a Ren Fair. It's people doing it for the love of it, and they have all sorts of different time periods and cultures, including Viking. And so there are Viking encampments, and you can actually see people dressed as Vikings fighting on the battlefield and weaving traditional cloth and everything, and that's amazing if you get a chance to check out the SCA. And then I want to tell you that there's going to be a show tomorrow at noon California time. And I'm going to be doing one more story, different story from the one I did. I just want to say, please, if you want to make a contribution to supporting the arts and the storytelling arts, thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all. And those of you who have tuned in twice or who have contributed, thank you so very much. All right. Welcome to a moon-filled night of strange and wondrous tales of ancient kings and mystic rings and ships with painted sails, of how I've come to be here and where I wish to go, and of all my deepest secrets that you will come to know. Thank you.